I've only recently met with Michael Brinley and his dad Bernard, although we have occasionally contacted each other over the past few years. Several years ago, Michael enjoyed watching this YouTube channel and asked if he could make a Facebook fan page for my videos. I agreed, as I don't do Facebook, and he's looked after it ever since. I'm mentioning this as he started his own company a year or so later, selling inflatable boats, paddle boards and other small craft bits and bobs. He calls his company Maelstrom Marine, and he contacted me a couple of weeks ago and mentioned he and his family were visiting the Oban area and bringing a couple of car boats with them. Would I like to meet up and also have a look over his brand of inflatable kayak boats? I agreed and was keen to make a video of the boats, as I have not been able to get much footage from my own adventures lately. So I guess it's a review of the boats, but I want to make it clear I was not asked to make this video, and all thoughts and opinions on the boats are my own. I gain nothing by doing the video except perhaps repaying Michael for his Facebook fan page. And perhaps I might gain a few extra new subscribers from people trying to research these boats, as there is not that much in the way of reviews, and any I have seen have been displaying the boats in good sea conditions. I wanted to see how they handled less than ideal conditions, and I'm pretty certain that's what prospective buyers want to know. I met up with Michael and Bernard at Kelly's Pier, Lochetive, on a bright but blustery morning. After introduction pleasantries, I was surprised but delighted when they produced a large cardboard box and said, "This is a 365 HD size car boat for you to try out and then give us feedback." So I even get an unboxing experience, although traditionally these are normally done in the living room. It was a refreshing change to see an unboxing on the beach, just before its maiden voyage. I'm experienced enough with inflatable boats to recognise the boat bag, seats, the boat itself, the air floor and hand pump, oars, but I was at a total loss to know what the multicoloured foam blocks were for. Oh, and there's also a repair kit, complete with patches and wind part, PVC glue, and a Halke Roberts valve spanner. Bernard later explained the use of the foam blocks. They are put over the little skegs on the bottom of the boat to help protect them when they're rolling the boat up and putting it in its bag. I accepted that answer as it made total sense. I had brought my own Seavler battery-operated electric pump, so connected it up and started inflating the 4 tube compartments. The Halke Roberts valves are clearly marked 3.6 psi, or 250 millibars. I chose 250 millibars, as psi is a bit too old school for my now digital brain. As the pump did its thing, I started to unpack the oars and other bits and bobs. I didn't fully pressurise each chamber at once, as this can damage the internal baffle which separates each chamber. Instead, I inflated all chambers in turn to 150 millibars, then went round them all again, this time inflating to the maximum pressure, 250 millibars. I only require one seat, although there are 2 provided with the kit. It fits on rails, so its position is totally adjustable. With the 4 tube chambers up to pressure, the next job is to install the inflatable floor. It's a high pressure drop stitch air floor, and it's pressurised to 7 psi, or 485 millibars. This is the only valve that is not marked with the pressure, so you'll just have to remember it, or ask Michael, which is what I did. It took around 10 to 15 minutes to assemble and inflate. Then it was an easy job carrying the 30-kilogram assembled boat to the water's edge. I fitted my own 27-kilogram, 6-horsepower Yamaha outboard to the boat. Then, as it was still half low tide, I paddled out to water deep enough to start the outboard. Although the boat comes with oars, I decided to use kayak paddles. After all, it is a kayak boat and not a rowboat. But it's a personal choice, assuming you have a kayak paddle, as it's not supplied in the box. I was surprised how easily it paddled, but I should have known because that is what it's designed for and why it's so narrow, which gives less drag. The flat bottom glides over the water surface, but it will also drift easily in the wind. The little skegs assist keep it tracking straight, but it will still get blown about, just like any other inflatable canoe, kayak, or small inflatable boat. However, because of its versatile design, when you get fed up paddling or rowing, just fire up the outboard and it's off like a bat out of hell. Even with a 6-horsepower outboard, which is the maximum size for the 365 HD boat. Try doing that with your inflatable canoe, sit-and-top kayak, or your paddleboard. My phone GPS was reading 15 miles per hour, and I was only at half throttle. However, I didn't want to go any faster as I thought it was getting close to starting to twitch its bow, but that was with no trimming whatsoever. I looked over the stern and noticed a slight problem. The rear tube handle was scooping up water and directing it into the boat, so I slowed down a little. Well, to 14 miles per hour and everything was fine again. I landed to let the drone have a sniff around the car boat. It's certainly a nice looking craft and it looks well made, high quality 9mm PVC as used in most decent inflatables. It's not the cheaper stuff many cost-cutting inflatables are made from. I moved the seat forward to try and trim the boat a bit better, thus helping keep the rear handles out the water. For a 6-horsepower 4-stroke and one person, I found it definitely benefits from a tiller extension. I confess, when I first started using the boat, I was a bit concerned as to how stable it would be at sea, as it's only 1.1 metres wide. I initially felt they could easily overturn, but after 10 minutes of use I realised this was more in my mind rather than the lateral stability of the boat. As confidence grew, I decided I had to try it out to sea to find out how stable it was in a chop, as Loch Etive is relatively sheltered. The forecast was winds gusting from 12 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. So I knew at some point in my journey I would have force 4 conditions. Heading down the loch, I was impressed at how easily the boat absorbed the short, sharp loch chop, allowing me to keep going at 14 miles per hour. When I use my smaller F-rib, I have to slow down because its hard hull vibrates the hard shock into my back. Of course, it's the softer nature of the airflow that allows me to keep my speed up. While viewing the video, it's worth mentioning that I'm using a GoPro camera for filming, Its wide-angle lens always makes waves appear smaller than they are. Conditions going down the loch were around a good force 3. I knew I had to go under the Connell Bridge to reach the sea, and was looking forward to having a play in the tidal flow of the Falls of Laura, as by now my fear of the narrow boat tipping over was completely gone. The loch surface started to settle as I neared its sheltered end at North Connell. Then it turned smooth as I lined up my run for the Falls of Laura. I wanted to hit the turbulence at speed, and if it proved a bit much, would close my eyes until I was swept under the bridge. So you can imagine my disappointment when I found the tidal race was switched off. Neap tides and bad timing on my behalf meant there was no flow. However, my real test for the boat, and the reason I brought it down here, was to try it out in a nice chop and see how it handled itself. The waves started to get a bit bigger as I neared the Firth of Lorne, which by all accounts can be considered as the open sea. I knew once I cleared the shelter of Elian Beg Reef that there would be a tidal flow and also wind-blown waves converging at all angles, and if the boat didn't complain, it would easily manage moderate sea conditions as well as any other inflatable around the 3.5 metre length. And it managed no problem. Not that I doubted it, as I wouldn't have tried otherwise. I'm 70 years of age, so the last thing I want is an unexpected swim and lose a drone, video camera and GoPro to King Neptune, as they were all in the boat. It was interesting to also see that although this is a very busy tourist area, in the height of summer season, normally there are lots of visitors with inflatable boats of all kinds, but this day there's not another boat to be seen anywhere. Would I be correct considering they all thought it was a bit too windy for them? Regardless, the car boat behaved very well. The high upswept bow gave me confidence that its nose wouldn't go underwater when running down the face of a wave at speed. I did throttle off a bit though, as I would do in any boat in a following sea. It is quite a wet ride in the chop though, because the tubes are only 35 centimetres in diameter. But in my opinion, this could be improved by not placing carry handles at the waterline, which undoubtedly deflects water into the boat. And do keep in mind that any small boat is a wet ride in a chop, and you can also get really soaked if it starts raining heavy, so I'm not complaining about shipping a little water. The Falls of Laura now had a slight flow under the Connell Bridge. Not enough to stop and play in there, but the boat never so much as twitched in the flow, so I can only presume the small skegs do serve a purpose. I thoroughly enjoyed using the boat in these conditions. My only regret was the sea wasn't a bit rougher, so I could start pushing the boat to its limits. Yes, I could have gone further out to the Lismore tide race, which would have been testing, but I wasn't risking several £1,000s of video equipment in this outing. I also only had launching trousers and a woolen jumper on my top, so didn't want soaked to the skin. Excuses? Well, you can decide that for yourself. Back at home port, I caught up with Michael and Bernard. I'd not seen them since they gave me the boat. I guess they knew if I got into difficulty in their car boat, they would be out their depth too, which I presume is why they asked me to test it and then give them feedback, while they stayed in sheltered waters fishing. I still wasn't finished with the boat though. I landed and replaced my 6 horsepower outboard with my smaller 3.3 horsepower 2-stroke outboard, which weighs 12 kilograms, a very easy lift. I wanted to see how the car boat would perform with this outboard. Although a small 2-stroke was revving its guts out, the way only 2 strokes can do, it certainly got the boat quickly in the plane, which is remarkable, as I weigh 210 pounds and can't get my small F-rib to plane with this outboard. OK, not as fast as a 6 horsepower, but it has a nice turn of speed, possibly around 10 miles per hour. I'd left my phone in the car during changeover, so couldn't measure speed accurately. I then sat the boat on top of the wake from the fish farm boat, and like many small boats, it sat in the wake nicely and didn't squirrel off either side, so in my opinion it's a nice handling, small inflatable boat. Back at Kelly's Pier, I tied in with Mike and Bernard to give them my feedback, which is basically what I've mentioned in this video. The only 2 criticisms being the 4 carry handles mounted in the waterline deflecting water into the boat in a chop, and also the boat could do with a few D-rings on the inside of the tubes to secure the fuel tank, and perhaps some up front on the inside to attach a waterproof box to keep lunch, tools and other bits and bobs secure. They both assured me that this feedback was much appreciated and is the reason they are keen to let me try the boat. I didn't have time to try the 4.5 metre one, but I'm sure it's in the same boat performance-wise, if you pardon the pun. Michael then asked if I would recommend the boat to others. I will be honest, and I said, I don't really do recommendations for anything, as what suits me may not suit others, and vice versa. But what I will do is, since it was a brand new demo boat, and because I enjoyed it so much, I will buy it. And that's what happened. I now own the boat. Paid for by myself. Well, the government helped a little, as they promised me my winter fuel allowance again this year. I guess my reply was as good as a recommendation from Michael, as we shook hands and he promised to post me on some D-rings to glue to the inside, and I agreed that I would deal with the carry handles myself. I thought of the movie Edward Scissorhands. He did give me a little discount in the boat for my troubles, but I voluntarily paid the vast majority myself. I had a sleepless night that night. I was desperate to try out my new purchase again in the morning. I know early mornings in Locheta are generally flat calm. So in the next part of this video, I am happy to give you my reasons for buying another boat when I already have two inflatable boats. I was up bright and early and excitedly set up the car boat at Kelly's Pier the following morning. The loch was almost flat calm. I was a bit more organised too, padding in the bench seat for more comfort, and a bow box to hold my bits and bobs, flask and sandwiches, to save them rolling around the boat. And then I was off heading up Locheta. There are several reasons I decided to purchase a car boat, mostly age-related. First, I loved the weight of the car boat. At 30 kilograms, it's 7 kilograms lighter than my 2.75 size F-rib. Now I'm 70, these extra kilograms do make a difference. A year or so ago, I loved visiting different places to use my F-rib. Many locations requiring me to lift the boat down steep bankings, from lay-bys to the water's edge. The past year or so I wasn't going to these places, as I found the weight of the boat and then the weight of the 27 kilogram 6 horsepower outboard a bit much, especially if I slipped in the steep bankings. The car boat of only 7 kilograms difference feels like a breath of fresh air to carry. And getting such good performance from my 12 kilogram 3.2 horsepower Mariner, and it's a no-brainer. I'd even given up visiting Loch Awe as I found it just a bit much, lugging the F-rib outfit down the banking. Now I can't wait to get back with the lighter car boat. Another age-related reason is I'm getting a bit fat and lazy. When the weather's bad, I'm sitting in front of a computer making videos. When the weather's good, I'm out sitting in a boat. I need more exercise. I enjoy rowing and paddling, so hope to do a lot more for it. The car boat is exceptionally easy to row. And I'm looking forward to paddling at kayak style, which uses the torso muscles for a power stroke instead of arm muscles. Hopefully that should help trim my Guinness gut a bit. Another reason is I found the car boat is a much softer ride in short, sharp loch chop than my small F-rib with its hard hull. The airflow absorbs a lot of the shock from waves that the F-rib passes on to my old spine. Another very important consideration for a tight-fisted Scotch git is its price. Because it's half the width of a standard inflatable boat, it's half the price. And it's certainly not lacking in performance. The price of around £700 for a brand new car boat is exceptional value. Possibly last, but certainly not least, at my age I realise I can't take my money with me when I part company with my boats. I will still use the F-rib as it's my work boat. Its hard hull never complains when I fill it full of driftwood for the home fires. Some with rusty nails, etc. So every boat has its use, and all boats are a compromise. I hope you found this video useful and answered some questions about the car boat. Thanks for watching, and do come back as there will be plenty of updates on this boat, as well as my adventures on the other boats.